Hello there. This is Cindy at cindybdesigns.com. Thank you for joining me today. We have two projects to make in this video. I'm going to do the cards. The scrapbooking page will be the next video because this one just got too long. It's almost 30 minutes. So I decided to split it up. We are going to be featuring the Splendid Autumn Suite collection that's on pages, let's see, 36 and 37 of the Holiday Mini Catalog. And this is a big one. It's the only fall suite collection we have outside of the Autumn to Remember. What? Okay, the formal name for that is Autumn to Remember Scrapbooking Workshop Kit. And that does come with a stamp set. I don't have it because I'm using Autumn Expressions. So what's in this suite collection is that fantastic wild wheat ribbon that I just showed you. Then we have those faux glass dots in 4 different colors in the suite collection. Those mesh gold leaves, they're fantastic. There are 2 sizes, and I brought 2 of them out. I'm going to reach around and grab a piece of white paper so you can see the detail in them. The one on the right has like lines going through it, and then the one on the left is just pure mesh. You could double them up, take some of our gold foil paper, it has an open leaf die cut in any of our dies, and then adhere it over that so you have something really dimensional and different. Now, in this suite collection, you get the 6x6 paper, huge, 48 different sheets. You have your scenery, the watercolor scenery on the front. You have a solid color on the back. And the colors in this suite collection are Azure Afternoon, Balmy Blue, there's a lot, Cajun Craze, Cherry Cobbler, Crushed Curry, Fresh Freesia, Garden Green, Moody Mauve, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, and Pumpkin Pie, and Wild Wheat. Now, on the bottom there, it gives you some of the colors in the catalog, but you have to look on the back of your designer series paper stack to get all the colors. And I normally write them in the catalog underneath that. So we have that stamp set and all those die cuts. They'll cut out all the images in there, and then the sentiments and a lot of standalone dies as well too. That is the Autumn to Remember kit. And the formal name is Autumn to Remember Scrapbooking Workshop Kit, which means when you get the workshop kit, you are going to have everything in there that you need to do 3 double page spreads. And those directions, they are very, very detailed. They come on great sturdy cardstock, and then you get that bag which is also sturdy, so that way you can store it in a basket or something like that. All the dimensions, everything that you need to cut, not necessarily IKEA like our kits are, but very, very detailed, because there's a lot of us that are card makers, and this is something new for us. I mean, I haven't done this since the 90s, when my daughter was a baby, and she's 31 now. And yeah, that was a long time ago. So this is like what I would consider some really good fall paper, because all we have is, well, that paper from Splendid Autumn Suite Collection, and you get quite a bit in this kit. All those papers coming up there. You have a nice sticker sheet, and then we have this new, is coming up underneath this new two-tone 12 by 12 cardstock. That is Old Olive. You get 2 sheets of each. I just flipped it over. That is Petal Pink. And is that Daffodil Delight or Crushed Curry? Let me check. Crushed Curry. Then you get 2 of the white sheets in there that are from Close to My Heart. I think they call it Daisy White, Willow White, something like that. And then all those punch outs, that would be a really good stencil if you took all the sentiment strips out or whatever. That piece right there, it's not sticky back, but it's very chippy, very chipboardy. And it's nice and thick and easy to adhere. Now, what's really cool about this kit, I haven't, seen this forever, is that you get 4 placement cards that will help you line your pictures up. So you get the 3x3s, the 3x4s, and then a 4x4 and a 4x6. So that way when you're decorating up your scrapbook pages, it helps you lay everything down right. And again, this is a wonderful kit. Now, I'm all over the map here a little bit because we're working with a lot. Going back to the Splendid Autumn, I'm going to show you how to put together that frame because I haven't seen anyone do that. I think Sarah did, but maybe something a little bit to slow it down. So what you want to do, and this could be landscape or portrait the frame, you want to cut it out, and then you want to cut the frame out once and then cut it out again on the cardstock that you want in the middle of it. And before we do all of that, I'm showing you where the crease lines are because it's not funny, just it's one of those things where you want to pay attention because one of the squares is larger than the other one, so that way you can fit that piece in there. You can also fit it inside too if you want to. So the little top that I'm folding down now, that is going to go over for, I don't even know the name of this one. I didn't Google it. But you put up in there that one little teeny tiny piece of paper that I cut. It's green and it's coming up real soon because I am keeping the videos down to only 2 times only. That's the piece I was talking about because I was getting some feedbacks like, hey, the 4 times is way too fast. So I'm keeping it down to 200%. Pop your liquid adhesive down right there in between the score lines. Fold it over, give it a good crease with your bone folder, and that is going to make up your frame. Now to get in our back piece to it, because this is something that if you plan on laying it down to your card, go ahead and do it this way. If you don't and you want it to make like even a Christmas tree ornament or something like that, which of course you can out of this, or a purse. I mean, there's a ton of possibilities that you can do with this frame here. If you wanted to hang it on the tree, put that middle piece in the middle. But if not, there's a little teeny tiny lip in there. And I'm going to zoom in real quick. There we go. And I'm just going to run like a little line of glue all the way around that. I finally get my groove, a little bit going around that bottom right corner there where, the adhesive just goes on really nice for me. And little dots are fine too, whatever you decide to do. And then that is the bigger piece, and that is what you pop on there. It's going to inlay perfectly inside that lip. So when you flip it over, well, after I after I get it all lined up again because it wasn't adhered down all the way, and then flip it over and it fits in there perfectly. So that is going to be our hanger part. And right there at the very bottom, more adhesive. It's going to stick better than glue dots, so I really recommend that. And then pop it right on there. And I die cut this out in 4 different colors, so that way you could see kind of what goes where to help you get it all laid out and then figure out what you want to do next. So as you can see, it's very easy to put together. Don't let that kind of frame or anything like that intimidate you. So I wanted to remind you that I just figured this out and saw it. On the back of those punch outs in the scrapbooking kit, it tells you exactly which project it belongs to, project 1, 2, or 3. So for our first card, I decided to pull in a couple of elements from that scrapbooking kit of the leaves there on the right, and then that scallop circle there, and that strip. And I know I want that to be 4.5 inches long because I do have an A2 top folding, 4.25 across by 5.5 down card base. Those 2 standalone dies come out of the Splendid Autumn Suite collection. I already had a piece of champagne foil paper adhered to one of our adhesive sheets, so I just pulled it out of my scrap bin and went ahead and cut those out. I don't know if that's still current or not, but it's a foil sheet. Things like that always come back around. I hold on to them. Like I'm holding on to a lot of shapes, and we'll get into that later when it starts to get kind of laggy here because again, I am not speeding it up. I did have some feedback about that. It's like, it's too quick, I'm getting dizzy, and your hands are flying. And, they were. But I try to keep the video short so you don't get bored. So on that panel there, I put stamped dimensionals on the back, including the bones, the real long ones. And I still had that sponge stopper on my desk from weeks ago. Decided to dirty up the edges of that panel there. Use the corner rounder on the right side, and I'm going to lay that down. That corner rounder to me is a staple item, and I'm keeping it. So I am laying everything out, and that panel's not big enough for me. So I kind of went back to last week and cut out a piece of vellum. This time I embossed it using the fall leaf online exclusive embossing folder, and I cut that out of, I think, the second largest square or circle from Stylish Shapes. And so I'm getting everything lined up right now how I want it to go. Snip the ends off that ribbon, or not the ribbon, the leaves there on the right from the scrapbooking kit a little bit, and just kind of figuring out where I want to place everything. And I'm okay with that. And so from here on out, it's pretty much going to be marking everything and getting everything adhered down. So for next week, I did pick up the Halloween scrapbooking kit as well, because we don't have any Halloween paper out. Go to online exclusives for that. I did bring in Everyday Greetings, which is in the annual catalog this year, and I'm going to put down Thinking of You in verse marking. But before I do that, I bring in my embossing tool and just kind of shake it up way too much, and the powder comes pouring out, and that does not work out for me at all because there's just too much powder down there, and my Swiffer wipe will not clean it up. I went ahead and stamped it anyway, just in case, but this is why I always do two sentiments of the same thing, because I do have, two sides of the cardstock there, and inevitably I don't do one right, so, just might as well get it over with. I'm bringing in our white powder to get that heat embossed, and if there's stragglers there, or like flecks of white powder, I always grab an angled dry paintbrush and get those off. Then I go to heat emboss it. Now with our heat embossing tool, number 2 is to heat set, number 1 is to dry ink. So you want to let that get set up or heat up for a couple minutes there, a minute, and then go ahead and take that to your cardstock and watch it melt. So while we're doing that, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side of the cardstock. But there's a lot of measurements in these cards, and all of that will be over on the blog at cindybdesigns.com. There will be a direct link to the blog post for this video in the YouTube description, so that way you can go right to it, and a supply list and everything like that. I didn't use too many retired products in here. I think it's just the Detail Trio Punch with the corner rounder there. And again, like I said, I'm going to keep that. I still have a couple buy one, get one left over from last year, and I think I'm going to go through those dies again. I'm going to start saving my shapes, like the Spotlight on Nature that we are going to use for our next card. That's in the annual catalog. I'm going to keep that if it doesn't carry over, because they are circles with patterns in them. And this time around, that wipe worked great. It's not coming off there, as you can see. It did a little bit, but it's still a mess. So that is our sentiment there. I'm going to get our stamp cleaned, and then we are going to move on to, I need to trim that sentiment out a little bit, and that was heat embossed onto pecan pie cardstock. I kept my colors not neutral here, but pretty much using the colors in the Sweet Collection. The Sweet Collection and the Scrapbooking Workshop Kit, they go very well together. And I really encourage you to pick it up, if anything, just for the paper, scrappy cards. You can take the layouts down to a card size. So I'm lining everything up there, and that light green was too light green for me. And so I brought in my early espresso pad with a sponge dauber again, and I'm just dirtying up the edges a little bit there to give it some dimension, despite the fact that we have some good dimension going on with the vellum cardstock that I actually did emboss this week compared to last week. I was talking about how I really wish I'd done that. So I did it this week, and I'm going to pull that card back in and just pretty much started hearing things at this point in time. The bottom of that leaf is going to go down with liquid adhesive, and you see me do this a lot, pretty much on a lot of what I do. Stampin' Dimensionals towards the top, liquid adhesive at the bottom. It gives it some great dimension, really easy to do. It stays down where you want it to. And then I know just to pop that down right there where I made that little mark. And then I had the rest of the leaf left over to put on another project. And now I'm just lining everything up, trying to figure out, okay, how I want this to go. I don't want to go on over the card too much, under the card too much. Grab in my low tack tape there. Put liquid adhesive straight on the back of the vellum because our scallop panel is going to cover that up, so that's why I don't worry about it too much. Let that get set up. Pop a couple Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of the sentiment. There's going to be 3. And then on the back of our little scallop circle there. Now the scrapbooking kit of Autumn to Remember, that does have its own stamp set that you can purchase outside of the workshop. The workshop will have everything you need in there to put together the pages that I went through at the beginning of this video. The stamp set is just an add-on if you want to use it. You don't have to, because my scrapbook page turned out fine without any kind of stamping at all. But when I did combine them, the Autumn Expressions, which is part of the Splendid Autumn Suite collection, there's some really big sentiments in there that, work just perfectly for me. And that's why I didn't bring the stamp set on board, because I had 3 large ones to also choose from. So I'm peeling off the back of our adhesive sheet from that standalone cut out of champagne foil paper onto our card base or mat there. And then Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of the sentiment. Do I want to do something with that leaf? No. Do I want to add that in? No. I think I'm looking okay. So I'm going to embellish this with 3 of the faux glass dots. And I already have the Cajun craze in there 3 times, but that's not going to work because the adhesive fell off the back of that. Lay it in again. Put in a crushed curry one. Need another one, for that rule of 3s or odds. And that is going to be it for our first card. For our second card, those are the big sentiments I was talking about. And we're going to use some of the images. Now, I have early espresso and crumb cake and very vanilla regular cardstock. For this one, I'm bringing in only the designer series paper from the scrapbooking kit. And the top and the bottom are 4 across by 1 1/4, and the middle one is 4 across by 1 3/4 down. And I wanted to bring in the Changing Leaves online exclusives embossing folder and run that cardstock or the designer series paper through that folder, and that will give it so much texture and so much dimension. And don't be afraid to emboss your designer series paper. I mean, it really does something to it that looks so pretty. So when you do that, bottom plate 1 only, embossing folder with the paper inside, top plate number 4, run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and there you have those beautiful layers. So I'm trying to think, while I did all that this week, what happened? I got stung by a bee, And it was a yellow jacket too because I had a pointy tail and it was awful, right? Like where your hand and your wrist begins, and it hurt. And they are mean too, like wild turkey. They will chase you. And yeah, that was, I haven't been stung by a bee for a good, oh my gosh, 20 years. Yeah, I was not liking that. So I grabbed the sentiment from our Autumn Expression stamp set. I'm going to lay that down one, two, three times in early espresso ink, and then bring in our clear embossing powder and put that on top of it and heat emboss that. You can heat emboss our colored ink, and it will give it a little bit more color, but a beautiful raised detail at the same time. And that's going to pop out here real soon and super easy to do. But like I said, it just brings out a little bit more color. Get the stamp cleaned up. If there's, I didn't even put powder on this one because I didn't feel like I needed to. So for our focal point here, I'm bringing in that little tree ring from Autumn Expressions, and I'm going to ink that up in Wild Wheat. I know I have to stamp it off. I don't know how many times yet because that is, dark. So I do one, two, three. I'm happy with the third one, and I'm choosing that. So I'm going to ink it up again, bring back in my scratch paper, and then one, two, and then three down on our very vanilla cardstock. Get that cleaned up. Then I'm going to bring in that little, I want to call it like a wheat image from like a wheat field. Get that positioned. Ink that up with pecan pie, which is pecan pie and wild wheat. I'm really surprised how I'm drawn to those two colors. The wild wheat, wasn't too sure about it at first, but it's really kind of grown on me a lot. And especially the pecan pie. That reminds me years ago, like way back in 2007, 2008, I think it was called Creamy Creamy Caramel. I'm not sure. But that color reminds me a lot of that. So this is where I bring in our Circle Spotlight in Nature dies. And again, I'm keeping those. And I'm going to take that over to the cut and stamp and emboss machine once I lay down my low tack tape there. Run that through and then go ahead and bring it back over. As we start to assemble this card, a lot of it's going to be mainly a little bit of cutting and adhering everything all together. But this video is almost 28 minutes long, and I think that's too long, and that is why I split my scrapbook page up because, there's card makers and there's scrapbookers, and then there's both. And this way, it's easier for you to pick and choose which one you want to watch. But do remember that I have the description, or not the description, but showing you what's in that scrapbooking workshop kit on this video. And I probably won't do it on the next one because, like I said, I had not scrapbooked for over 30 years. And I haven't done it. And I'm not going to say I struggled to put this together, but I think I did a little bit because it's the first page I've done in a long time. And I try to have everything punched out for you and pre-cut, or, so it's easier for me to put it together. Didn't quite work that way a little bit, but it still turned out. So I'm putting liquid adhesive on the back of our embossed paper there. I have a little bit too much of an early espresso lip at the top that you see there. So I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer and then just cut that down a little bit and then bring it back in to go ahead and get our sentiment cut. If you're not into scrapbooking, think journaling, or for lack of a better term, maybe junk journaling. These are great for mixed media cards and scrapbook pages. We're kind of pushing the home stretch here just a little bit with this card. I'm pulling in my Early Espresso A2 card base, and I'm going to adhere a piece of crumb cake down to the top of that eventually. Okay, I'm putting Stampin' Initials on the back of our focal point there with a tree ring and our wheat piece. And now I'm taking that piece of crumb cake, lining that up left to right, top to bottom, put liquid adhesive on the back of it, and then go ahead and get that down. But with these cards and the scrapbook page, don't be afraid to mix and match your products here. They all coordinate beautifully, and they are designed specifically to do that. A lot of them, again, with the same scale that I've done here with the, because I don't have that autumn stamp set, but I do have the one in for the Splendid Autumn. And you will find the scrapbooking brochure online. There's nothing in print about that. And again, that will be over on the blog, the link, so you can go directly to that. I am pulling off our Stampin' initials on the back of our focal point and getting that down, top to bottom, left to right. Pull back in that sentiment, figure out where I want to line that up. 2 mini Stampin' initials are going to go on the left and right of that, and then a little bit of glue on top just to keep it adhered down to our stamped image there. And I thought that might be it, but it needed a little something, and this is where I bring in that beautiful wild wheat rustic stripe ribbon there. So easy to tie, and I'm going to have to get another roll of that because I love it and I've been using it a lot. I'm going to get that into a bow eventually, straighten out my tails and my loops, and then sneak a glue dot under that part of it right there. It's going to take me a little while to get that backing off. I decided not to embellish this card with the faux glass dots or anything like that, because I think with the ribbon and the embossing that I did, that we have enough going on that I'm completely okay with. But again, lots of options. Grab a Stampin' Right marker, maybe flick some black on there or some brown for, for splatters, and just whatever you want to do. I finally do get that bow down and trim off that left edge there. But I do want to thank you today for joining me. Don't forget to watch the second video if you want to see the scrapbook page. And please leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see. There's a notification button, and that's our card, up at the top, I think, on YouTube. For the next video, I always come out on Saturday. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And I will see you again for part 2 coming up.